interactive workshop. It's a mix of content that I'll present through some Mentimeter slides that will also be interactive. And then there is a portion where we will design a fun retrospective. We will be on a mural board. You don't need to be a mural expert to be part of this. I just decided to have a mural as just like a way to kind of like be on the same page in terms of what we're doing. So let me quickly go through the agenda for today. So again, the outcome is to listen about some concepts about Agile retrospectives, and then experience designing an online Agile retrospective. So I'm gonna start like shortly, just going through some concepts through Mentimeter. Then we're gonna go into concrete practice and kind of like design this retro. We're gonna go into breakouts in smaller groups. I'm gonna ask a few prompts before we do that. And then I scheduled a break around 10 past the top of the hour. This is UTC times, by the way. And then there is a share back. So we kind of like come back and say, hey, this is what we came up with, get some feedback, and then draw some conclusions. And whoever wants to stay later, we can do that. Yeah, so I think this is it. The first thing that I will ask you to do is, if you don't mind, well, first of all, I'm Enrico. I'm a passionate retrospective facilitator. I don't know, you can find more about me online. I just do a lot of those events, both because I have fun talking about it, and also I'm part of an Agile Alliance initiative to promote powerful retrospectives. There is a community online where we basically publish and ask questions. So if you go to principle12.agilealliance.org, you'll find this tribe where we basically ask questions, put comments. So feel free to go to that. Other than that, there's a monthly retrospective on retrospectives, which is a free community event. If you go to myname.eventbrite.it, it should pop up there. So you can also like sign up for those calls. We basically talk for an hour and a half about retros, reflect, and try to come up with little experiments to change and to reflect on our retrospectives. And that's that. So I invite you to go to Mentimeter URL, which I will share on my background. So you will both see there's a QR code on my video. You can also go to menti.com and type in this code that is 42897447. And we're going to start with a quick online retrospective self-assessment. So I want to see where this group is in their online retrospective facilitation, so that I can kind of like know where to talk more or talk less in the next 10-15 minutes of this initial content delivery. So I invite you to either grab your phone, point it to the QR code, or go to menti.com and type in the code. You can also do that through the browser. I see 1-2 people already did that. So I'm gonna give a couple of moments for everybody to do that. So feel free to go through your browser or your phone. People already submitted. We have 20 about in the call, so I'm gonna have a few more moments for everybody to fill that in. And let me also, I'm gonna share this link in the Zoom chat. So if you are having trouble going to Mentimeter, I'll just put in the Zoom chat the link to get in. Let's do a quick reveal, and we are kind of like in the middle. So that's good. That's good to know. And we're all here to kind of learn from each other, really. I think one thing about retrospectives is there isn't a best practice that you follow and that's it. Most of the things that emerge are very context dependent, and so it's a never-ending learning experience. At least that's been my experience so far. Alrighty, so let's start with a little bit of content. And I'm not just gonna like read stuff to you. Instead, the approach we're gonna take is it's gonna be a form of a quiz. And so if you're on menti.com, it will probably ask you to put in your name or pick one of the funny animals that it's suggesting. That is so that we can track who's got more points at the end. So I'm gonna give you a couple of moments to do that, and be ready. We're gonna talk about the Principle 12 of the Agile Manifesto. And so instead of reading it to you, we're gonna guess what it is. So how does the Principle 12 start? There is a sentence, and then the team. Does it start with every week, at regular intervals, or when it needs? And so it's pretty quick round. So at regular intervals is the correct one. Sometimes we maybe run retrospectives every week, but at regular intervals, the team does something. At regular interval, the team does what? Look at your phone, you'll see a few options. Three more seconds. Yep. Reflects on how. Yep. Reflects on how. And then there is another couple of prompts. And the faster you answer, the more points you get. So at regular interval, the team reflects on how to what? Become more effective. And then there's a final portion of it. Which is then does what accordingly. Cool. Yep, tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So Principle 12 really is the and I just muted you because there was some feedback coming back. So sorry about that, but there was like some return voice coming back. So tune and adjust behavior accordingly. So this is the Agile Manifesto Principle 12. A good amount of the group knew it already. And so this is the purpose for retrospective to exist. So at regular intervals, we reflect on how to become more effective, then we tune and adjust its behavior accordingly for the team. And now the Agile Retrospective framework introduced by Esther Debye and Dana Larson, based off the project retrospective book by Norm Kurth, has these like 5 steps. And I invite you to, if you read that book, to click on the little heart that you'll see on this slide. If you want to read it, click on the thumbs up. And if you have not read it yet, the thumbs down. So if you have not read it, but you want to read, thumbs up. And if you just haven't read it and you're not really planning, the thumbs down, so that I can get a gauge of the group again. And yeah, so this book was released in the mid of 2000s. Actually, another thing that I have is I have a podcast about Agile Retrospectives. I've interviewed Diana on why do we need those 5 steps. So if you're interested in a little bit of it, you can listen to that as well. If you Google for "this is retrospective facilitation," it'll pop up. So we're going to talk a little bit about those 5 steps because the retrospective that we're going to design is based on these 5 steps. And then after we chat about those 5 steps, we also have a Q&A pose where we can pose questions about those. So those 5 steps start with setting the stage. And the reason for setting the stage is to make sure that people know what is about to happen and focus about the retrospective that is about to come. The other thing you can do when you set the stage is kind of like do a quick check-in on psychological safety, how people feel about the retro. I often hear, oh, people don't contribute. When I set the stage, especially for new teams, it's good to kind of like get a gauge. How do we feel about this retro? Do we feel safe? Do we feel we can contribute? And doing this anonymously at the beginning kind of clears out some of those questions for the following actions. So yeah, creating an atmosphere to make people feel comfortable, and especially online when we come back, maybe we go back to back into meetings, having a time to kind of like focus is important. So grab your phone again or your device, and there is a question on what is the purpose of setting the stage. You'll see multiple options. You can only pick one. And yeah, so grab your phone and you'll see options popping up. See 5 people replied already. And if you want to jump on the Mentimeter, I put a link in the chat. I'm gonna copy paste it again so that new people that joined should be able to get that. And you can also use the QR code that is on my screen and join with your phone. Yeah, so in this list I put some kind of like little traps and some more correct answers. And yeah, so foster the atmosphere, assess the team. Definitely is not there to be padding for people that are late or just purely play games. We want to make sure that there is a focus on why are we here. And the Principle 12 gives us that focus. And the other thing that is important, I put it here, like clarify that we will find who's responsible for our problem. I oftentimes hear, well, it is someone's fault and we must find a culprit, and that really does not set the best atmosphere for a powerful retrospective. And so the following step after we clear that out is gathering data. So looking at the what happened, how did we feel about it? Again, you get a shared picture of what happened. And without that common picture, everyone has their own opinions. And yeah, so gathering data allows you to kind of like see everyone's perspective and then generate insight, then decide what to do. But this is a step that oftentimes we see is mixed up with creating action or kind of like jump into solutioning, when it's really just let's take a snapshot of what happened. So yes, gathering data. What is the purpose of gathering data? Again, I invite you to grab your phone or your device. What is the purpose of gathering data? And by the way, if people have questions emerging, feel free to write them in the chat. There is going to be a Q&A in like a few minutes, but if you have something pressing that you have on your mind, feel free to put it in the chat so that when we get to the Q&A, we have that there already. Yeah, and so here are some of my traps got some of you. So listing all the problems and the solution. The problem with that is we don't want to jump to solutioning. So we don't want to jump to here's the solution. We want to try and refrain from that and kind of like slow the pace down when we gather data and just focus on just giving everyone the opportunity to put something out there, especially probably with silent activities, and not necessarily putting the areas of improvement yet. That's going to be down the line with the insights and the decision of what to do. This is just a snapshot. What did we see? How did we feel about it? And the getting to the root cause is another misleading one, because sometimes maybe there isn't a root cause. Maybe it's something complex that we can only influence and we cannot fix. So taking a snapshot, taking a photo of what happened and passing around different opinions is the purpose of gathering data to then generate insights. And this is where taking that snapshot, here we can start thinking, okay, what improvements can we do? Remember, it's always principle 12. The regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective. How can we become more effective having seen this picture? And again, often we see kind of like in gathering data, we try and fix everything. I call it a whack-a-mole approach, where we try and like put patches on everything. In generating insights, we try to prioritize and ask, okay, what is the most important thing to make us work more effectively? What do we have most energy? What would be the highest return on investment in terms of actions? Again, we pause and we give the team ownership of this decision. We shouldn't try and like facilitate them and make decide for them. We should first see what their approach for that is. And so, what is the purpose of generating insights? I invite you to grab your phone or your browser. Cool. And yeah, we didn't really talk about divergent thinking, but yeah, fostering that not business as usual thinking, but like options out there. Definitely not looking for the culprit. That's always kind of like a bit of a dead end. And the facilitator creating the clusters. I've been in groups that where the facilitator did it. I probably did it sometime myself, like in the past. And yeah, we should really try and stay away from that and have the group do that. And we can talk more later if we wear a product manager hat and the facilitator hat and we have an opinion. That is kind of like a very interesting position to be in, and how to maybe manage that. Yeah, so this is generating insights. Then after we have those insights, so we should have like a list of ideas, a list of improvements. We can kind of like, or at least a vague idea of like what that could be. In deciding what to do, we make that more concrete and actionable, because really at the end of a retro, you should have something tangible out of it. And that is the deciding what to do. So that making it something that we can focus on the next iteration or two iterations, something that we have probably like control or influence. So that is deciding what to do. And so again, we're going to go into our little quiz about what is the purpose of deciding what to do. Cool. Yeah. And one of the little traps that I put in there is like adding storage chores for the backlog. And sometimes that is an adequate decision to put our action items in the backlog as chores or whatever works for the team. But it's not really the purpose. The purpose is, yes, to make the ideas more concrete. And fixing all the issue, that is also a little bit of a trap as well. Trying to fix everything, in my experience, tends to result in very few things getting done, rather than focusing on one or two of those actions. And then eventually, retrospective comes to a close. And one of the one step that, if you have to take away one thing by today's experience, is make sure that you close out your retrospective, meaning that you reserve some time at the end to get feedback on how was our retrospective. And that can be as simple as our return on time invested, between 0 and 4, 0, complete waste of time, 4, the best retro of my life. What is one thing you liked about the retro? What is one improvement you would that would make you vote 1 point higher? Whatever you use, just make sure that you kind of close out. You make sure that we know what's happening next, who's doing what, and you get feedback. That's how we improve. Whatever format you've used in the past, whatever format we come up with today with our fund retrospective, if we don't get feedback at the end, if we just have a gut feeling that people liked it, that is not a very good way to continuously improve. So yeah, closing out, make sure you reserve those 5 or 10 minutes. And if we start late, make sure you ask the group, hey, we started 10 minutes late. Are we okay finishing 10 minutes late? So make sure that you respect their time. If that's not possible, you might have to like kind of drop things. Try not to drop the closeout. Make sure that is second nature, gathering that feedback. So what is the purpose of closeout? I think this is the last question that we have here. And then there's the Q&A. So what is the purpose of closeout? Cool. And so here we are. Finish quickly as possible and getting drinks. And sometimes eating and drinking is a good way to bond when we were face to face. Purpose is, getting feedback is really the most important one. And so let's do a little tally. And I think Corrado, what was the prize you told me at the beginning? You get a map of London, he was saying. So you will get a map of the London subway system.
Yeah,
see, congratulations. In digital form. There you go.
Woohoo! Thank you, everybody.
No worries. And second, we have Sakura, Dex, I think is Corrado, Hertman. And so, we are now going into a Q&A portion. So if you have questions about those 5 steps, through the Mentimeter app, you can put in questions so that they will show up here and other people can upvote them, or you can just put them in the chat. So let's take a couple of moments to kind of like put in questions and about those 5 steps. And the reason we went through them is so that the retrospective we will design follow those 5 steps, which you might have questions about. So I'm going to give you a couple of moments to ask questions.
Yeah, it's okay if we tell the question, if we ask the question directly by voice.
Yeah, I think that's fine too. Maybe like if we raise the hand is better, like if we do this reaction so that we can see people stacking. Feel free to unmute yourself as well and ask them away that way. Yeah, so I see one question popping up on tips of managing the 5 steps in a single hour. And so it definitely basically requires a little bit of an agenda planning. I have a time broken out, and it also depends on how many people are in the group. So I think that's the other thing. So 1 hour, it might not be enough for a group that is like 8 people or 9 people. So depending on the group, I tend to do 1 hour and 15 or 1 hour and a half. If it's an hour, you just have to be very good at kind of like time boxing and being aware that if there's a lot of things emerging, the time might just require like a pretty ruthless prioritization. But definitely having an agenda, like where you know, okay, how much time am I going to spend here? And I can share one. Tizi, I don't know if that gave some new insights, or if you have any follow-up question.
Oh yeah, no, that was helpful. As far as follow-ups, I suppose what's the crux of what's hard is when someone talks a lot and it's hard to kind of stop them in order to stay on track. I find it difficult to kind of gracefully break in, and I would love for some tips along those lines.
Yeah, and that's great. And so that is one of the things that actually emerges a lot on that community that I talked about earlier. On the Principle 12, we actually had someone that was asking that very same question. So I invite you to jump on that, and but also like how do you head off people who wants to jump right from gather data or without like seeming rude. I think in general, what I do is, okay, I understand there's a lot of energy. Love that. Let me capture that and maybe like help me understand how is this connected to the topic that we're looking at. So that is one way to kind of like as a facilitator to do that. A great book with a lot of resources like that is called, if you Google for Kahner's book, it has, it's like a group facilitation book, and that has like a ton of those techniques that really help in those situations.
Thank you.
No problem. And then I'm gonna pick one. I saw a couple of questions coming up here. So which of the steps is the most key to create a psychological safety, and how we create? I think setting the stage is probably the one that is critical for that. So at the beginning, there is like an activity called ESVP, Explorer, Shopper, Vacationer, Prisoner. And let me see if I can find, yeah, this one. So you basically ask, are you an explorer, a shopper, a vacationer, or a prisoner? And that is an anonymous way to kind of like gather like what is the energy and how people feel, how safe do people feel. If everyone is a prisoner, if everyone has been forced to sit in this meeting, but don't see a point in it and won't actively participating, that is probably not a very psychologically safe environment. That is one. How to create it, that I think we could have a whole meetup to talk about that. Yeah, so I think in a nutshell, the other thing that you could do is like read Kurt's Prime Directive. Regardless of what we discovered today, we truly believe everyone did the best job they could, what they knew at the time, skills and abilities, situation available. See what people think about that. And you might need to divert the retrospective on making it a safe environment. So forget about looking at the last iteration, and you might have to focus maybe more than one single session onto how can we make it safe, and then what is a little experiment that we can take to make it safer again. So that is on that. But yeah, it's a great question. How to engage silent people. This is another one that often using silent activities. So earlier we were asking, hey, if you want to put questions in the chat. So that is one way. If you are in Zoom, maybe alternate the kind of like open conversations to silent activities, or just moments of silence where we say, okay, for 40 seconds, let's just like pause for a minute and reflect on what we just said, or reflect on this prompt. That is one way. One way not to engage is I wouldn't put people on the spot. I wouldn't say, hey, Mattia, I haven't heard from you. Can you say something? That is something to try and not do. Instead, prompts like, oh, we haven't heard, maybe now we can hear from people that haven't contributed yet, or does anyone else have any other thoughts? Or if the same person continues to contribute, another thing we could say, let's maybe like pause for a few seconds and give everyone the opportunity to contribute. And when we say a few seconds, we need to be comfortable with awkward silence. And what I do, I count in my head to 30, 1001, 1002. So 20 to 30, just to give time for that person that is wondering, should I say something or not, to contribute. So that is one. Yeah, we have a big team. Do we think everyone should be in a retro? I think in general, that is a great question. If it's useful for the team to be together, yes. If the team works together, yes. If it's a team but they're not really working together and they're doing things that are completely different, maybe like front end, back end designers, maybe it makes sense for them to have single retros and then a retro where they're all together that is focused on where are the points where we work together. Often I see designers sitting in retros and they cannot be bothered listening to very technical developer conversations. So understanding those team dynamic is important to kind of like get a better gauge of who should we invite. What to do if we spend a lot of time on retro, about 2 hours, we spend a lot of time on gathering data and generating insight. Well, so the It's a great question. So we must make sure, so when you prepare the retro, that there is time for deciding what to do. So talking. So getting data engineering insights alone is not sufficient. You must have you must have like a follow-up step. So ensuring that if the time is like it has been utilized for that phase, okay, what do we do next? What is an experiment we can carry over? So try and move in that group. And by the way, those answers that I'm giving, they're not like, oh, this is the best practice, do this and it's going to work. Ultimately, my suggestion is like, we should probably have like a longer conversation on each and every one of them. If you join that community, you'll hear different experiments that you can try. But yeah, in general, try to see how it goes, and then iterate. Try something else if that didn't work. Suggestion to prepare a new team for the first retro. I mean, probably start simple or ask them, how was the last retro? How would you like your retro to be like? So I wouldn't bring in something that I think is a good idea. I would probably ask them, how was your last retro? Was it good? Was it bad? Why was it good? Why was it bad? And then from there, design something. And maybe today we can do that. I see some questions in the chat as well. And maybe so there's 3 more questions. I'm gonna pause for a minute. I kind of wanted to zoom through some of them. If people that I've answered, in air quotes, some of those, if they have any feedback or anything they want to follow up, maybe we can do that for a couple of minutes. If I answered in air quote and you have like follow-up questions or considerations that you want to share, also feel free to put them in the chat as well.
Maybe something on the current questions. I actually recently had such a situation for a team, which was actually a very mature team, but they didn't use retro. So my suggestion is really start slow and do something simple, because we started with something a bit more specific, and it really didn't went as well as it could have been. So really, KISS principle.
Yeah. It's a great suggestion, and I see people putting in the chat like Retromat is a great way to find activities following those 5 steps. And I think I guess the one thing that even when it's simple, as long as we follow those steps, as long as we check how do we feel today, how do we feel about the last year, it can be as simple as that, and we'll see it when we design these retros together. Those 5 steps can be as simple as, and here I have some metaphors that I have. And so let me start sharing. So when we're gonna start like going into like designing the retro together, and I have one idea in my mind. Setting the stage can be as simple as a metaphor about, in this case, with Seinfeld. The one I want to do today is about Lego bricks. And so, how was the last iteration? What kind of Lego brick was the last iteration? And you can quickly connect to that. If you want to use a metaphor, but if you want to be simple, just how was the last iteration between, or just a photo of the last iteration, and then looking at the data, looking at the what, generating insights. What do we make of the data, and what is something actionable we can take back? Absolutely, yeah. Starting simple and checking in with them. So next up, how do we organize issues that need to be talked about? Invisible elephants in the room or specific concerns. Yeah, I mean, I think giving anonymity in the initial ESVP is a good way to kind of like get who's in the room. Another way, there is another activity similar to this called elephant in the room, actually, which similar to ESVP asks, how do you feel today? There is a sun, there's a boot, there's an elephant. And the boot is someone did something bad to you in the last iteration. The elephant, there's something that people feel like they shouldn't talk about. And the sun is all good. And I think there's another option. The mural I will share briefly, Lupo. Thank you for asking. But yeah, that is one way. Just give anonymity and see what emerges. Some of this is not as simple. Oh, you get anonymity, then stuff would just pop up. It might take time, and it might it might be a bit more complex than that. People thinking that if I say something, I'm going to get fired. Just because you give them anonymity, they might not say it. So it's a complex issue. I don't know if this person has some follow-up on that.
Indeed, it's for me also that when I get some question, or when we speak about things, I don't know. It's about the empathy maybe behind. Are there any hints what you can ask people, or how do you approach people to get to the core issue? And I was not thinking of the 5 whys or something as a method, but really, is there any hint you can give on, well, digging a bit deeper, or not only scratching the surface, but to get into things a bit more, to find these issues which need to be talked about?
Yeah. I mean, some of them, one way to kind of like that I tend to do when maybe stuff is not popping up is to, instead of like, oh, how can we make iteration perfect, is how can we completely mess up what we're doing? How could we really suck as a team? And there's an activity called Triz and another one called Future Backwards that tend to put the group in that space. Imagine we really suck. What are we doing? And then the next prompt is, are we doing anything remotely connected to that today? So that is one way that I've used to kind of like have things emerge, because at the beginning you kind of like laugh it off. Yeah, if we all kind of like flipped each other during our call, that would be really like sucking. Or if we called each other names. But then the next prompt brings that imaginative kind of like dystopia to, is there anything we're doing remotely like that? So that is one way that you can try it. Like a technique that you might try. I think I want to move us. I really love to answer all those questions, but at the same time, I want to move us into the designing of the actual retrospective. So what I'm gonna ask is, because what I've seen in those meetups where people, when we're going to breakout, people start to dropping out. So if you are excited about going into breakouts and start designing a retrospective, I invite you to use the Zoom reactions, which is down at the bottom, and raise your hand. So I get a gauge of how many people want to do that versus continue going through this Q&A, which we could do for another like 10 minutes. So please raise your hand if you're excited about going into breakouts and start designing a retrospective. I see a few people already raising hands, so thanks for that. I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. And those questions, if we go into breakout, doesn't mean the questions are never going to be answered, but it means that we're going to move on to the next scheduled step and get to the answer maybe on the meetup group, maybe on the Agile Alliance website. Cool. So I see participants. Oh, by the way, this might be interesting. Corrado, can you see my Zoom screen or no, by the way?
Yes, Enrico, I can.
You can also. I just wanted to show everybody, if you go into participants, you might not know it, but it's really cool. Instead of counting people, you can see that there's a little 10 with raised hand. So I knew that, okay, we have 26 people and 10 people raised their hand. So just a little tip in case you use Zoom. And that works with yes, no, and all the other things as well. So I want to say that I'm just going to wrap up the questions, and then we're going to move on into the breakouts. And let me just browse them so that using the team inside.
Can you please share the Zoom Mural link?
Share the what? Sorry.
Mural link.
Miro.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I will. Yeah. So let me do that right away so that you can start looking at this. Look. At least I think I copied the right one. Yeah, I think so. So. Cool. All right. So maybe some of those questions we will continue answering them as we go into breakouts. And I was just looking in the chat as well. About the explicit one, that is a good question. I'm usually not as very explicit. I just prepare like a series of steps, of activities, and I might not tell them. It depends. If it's useful for them, I will share it. But usually I'm a little bit subtle, Michael. And cool. So next up, well, this we're gonna skip, and we're gonna skip that as well. Yeah, so next, retrospective design. So the purpose of this next activity together is, once we go into breakouts is to create a retrospective design. And what does that look like? I mean, the idea is to follow the 5 steps and to have activities for those 5 steps. For example, when we set the stage, when we gather data, when we generate insights, and it can be, we are not required to create a template in here. In these breakouts, what I would suggest is to put in a little post-its that say, okay, when we set the stage, we ask, how was the last iteration? And if the theme for this retrospective is Lego, we find a metaphor using Lego. So I'm picking Lego. So whoever wants to do a Lego retrospective, come in the breakout with me. Everyone else, feel free to first, maybe once you are in the breakout, decide how many people are in this team, because that is really important. Sometimes we see templates out there, but we should reflect how big is our team, and is there a topic we want to focus on, and then anything specific. So someone earlier said, "Oh, we have a team that is very experienced." I saw in the chat. Someone else, a team that is very new. Maybe there is a lot of attrition, a lot of people quitting in the previous iteration or in the previous months. So understanding if there's anything specific that you want to play around in this design is important. So once you're in the breakout, reflect on those prompts. If you are new to Mural, this outline should pop up. And when you click on brief, you will see this little brief with instructions. And then, well, there's an example, and then there's going to be the breakout that you're in, which we'll work out in a moment. So then for the following 20 or so minutes, we're going to ask you to create or pick a string of prompts and activities for each retrospective step. So find a flavor like Lego, Star Wars, Seinfeld, going fishing, going hiking, and use that as a metaphor for your retro. You don't have to, but that's kind of the purpose of this meetup, to create a fun retrospective. And with fun, I mean, there is a flavor into that will resonate with your team. If your team hates Star Wars and they're into Star Trek, probably Star Wars is not a good one. Or if they don't know what Seinfeld is, then they should go watch it. And you should probably not run a Seinfeld retrospective, which is the example that I created in here. Seinfeld is a TV show. It's kind of like Friends. So if you're familiar with it, when you set the stage, how was the last iteration? We're master of our domain, sitting at a diner, lost in a parking garage, and licking toxic wedding invite envelopes. This joke is lost if people don't know what Seinfeld is. If you know your team loves Seinfeld, that might be a good fun thing for them. Hiking, fishing, those are more generic ones. Or traveling, that might be fit general group. Last time I ran this event, someone did one about a sporting team, like a soccer team. So the metaphor of like working together as a soccer team. So yeah, once you go into the breakouts and after you've defined kind of like the number of people, defining the activities, matching those 5 steps, and just put notes on a post-it. And yeah, you don't have to create detailed frames, just a general idea. You can add images, icons if you want. That's pretty much it. Those are the 5 spaces. So if you click on breakout 1, say that you're on this space, you can start adding post-its around here. Once you're on your breakout, you will be self-facilitated. If you need help, you can probably click the ask for help in Zoom. Any questions before we kick this off, before I put you in breakouts?
Enrico, just a quick question from me. Can we arrange one team in the main room so we can continue recording in the main room, just to have, let me say, this recorded? Because when we open the breakout rooms, actually we cannot.
Yeah, that's totally possible. Yeah, we can do that. And yeah, the other thing I was thinking is to allow people to just move around between rooms as well. So if they feel like they want to go to another group and ask them, hey, what are you doing? What are you coming up with? That's also possible. So Corrado, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think that at the moment we are recording in the main room. So if we move into one of the breakout rooms, actually the activity in the breakout room is not recorded unless there will be someone in the main room that is commenting what's happened. But I mean, it looks very complicated.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Cool. Yeah. So I'll stay here, and what I'll do is I assign people to breakouts, and you can return to the main session at any time, and you can also move between rooms. So if you feel like the group you're in, and we have, you know what? Let me actually.
Yeah, I'm fine. I can stay in the main room too.
So
and, yeah, so we have.
I can join the main room as well. That's not a problem.
So what I'm doing is I'm gonna create 4 rooms, 4 breakout rooms, and then I'm also gonna clone. Oh, we have a 5th one down here. Perfect. So the main room is gonna be breakout 5, or I'm just gonna rename it here. And so yeah, whoever wants to do the Lego retrospective, they can stay here. The other groups, feel free to self-organize on the theme and on the instructions that you'll find in the brief. We're going to do this for about 15, 20 minutes. That agenda, I just realized, ends at 8, but we end like...
Timing is perfect, Enrico.
Okay, but we actually... Okay, perfect. So we will... yeah, I will jump in if you need help, and feel free to ask for help as well. I'm opening the rooms right now, and yeah, so we'll be here if you need help. So whoever wants to do the Lego retrospective, we are gonna do a main room, and we're gonna add it to that. And feel free to turn on your cameras, and or just say hi, so that no worries, by luck. Yeah, usually when we put people in breakouts, I see a like a drop in the group, Corrado. So let's maybe give it a couple of minutes to see if the breakouts are okay, and then we can kick it off on our side. It looks like they are there. That's good. There's only one room with 3 people, or a couple of folks didn't join. Cool. Alrighty. Are you guys fans of Lego, Corrado, Ula?
Sorry, I was on mute. It was 5 minutes I was talking. Yeah, I'm here.
Me too.
Cool.
And
are you guys...
That's the one that is being recorded, isn't it?
Where we are is being recorded, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
And yeah, I mean, the idea is to, well, first go through the how many people will participate, any particular topic, and to keep it simple, we could just make it, I don't know, 5, 6 people looking back at one iteration, and they love Lego. But do you have anything on your mind that you would like to tackle?
Well, actually, I have a question, Enrico, because one of the... Okay, I'm also a Lego fan. Okay, so I really struggle in creating situations where...
Sorry,
actually
there was a bit of a noise coming from Biliana. Biliana, I just put it on mute. Sorry about that.
Yeah. My question is, how can we use Lego for a virtual retrospective? So did you have some experience? Did you have some clue?
So Lego will be the flavor of the retrospective. So it's not like we're using physical Lego. It's like if it was like a Star Wars retrospective. So this is a retro that was Star Wars themed. We're going to do the same with Lego. So instead of like using the theme of Star Wars, we're gonna use the theme of Lego.
Awesome.
That's the idea, Corrado. I don't know if that's
Okay, so not using
makes
bricks
sense.
actually. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. But did you make some experiment using bricks by remote?
No. I know some people that do. I think a guy that I know is on this call is a Lego Serious Play facilitator. So you might want to ask him. What I understand, yeah, but yeah, you should ask him. So
I'm really curious. Okay.
So yeah, I mean the idea that I had is like just 5-6 people, one like looking at like 1-2 weeks. But I don't know. Do you have any anything that you want to focus on? Maybe someone pissed someone off. Like that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking. Like, do we want to? Is there something in your like in the teams that you're working with that you want to bring out in this design that we are creating?
Yeah, I can suggest something that is happening to one of my teams actually, because
Yeah.
I have one team that is based in India, and actually you know that COVID there is really, really bad in this moment. And so half of the team actually is positive, and so the reality is that half of the team is off. So this is a really interesting topic for a conversation.
So they are sick, you mean, or off as in working?
Not necessarily sick, but they are off because, for example, they one of his wife is sick. Okay, so actually they cannot work.
Oh, okay. And but they're all remote. They're all online.
Yeah,
the whole
absolutely.
group. Okay, cool. Yeah, we can totally think about that. And you know what I'm gonna do? I just want to go into the breakouts to make sure people are all set. Do you want to continue creating this little background, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes?
Sure.
And I saw people joining on this. Are
Yeah,
you
I
all?
see Jeff. Yes.
Were they here before? I didn't.
And also Teresa.
So I'll let you, Corrado, brief them if need be, and I'll be back in like 5, just like going through the rooms.
Okay. So Jeff and Teresa, if you want to unmute and use your camera, okay? So it's okay in this moment, okay?
Hello.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
Are you from San Francisco or is it just the background?
No, just the image. I'm from Portugal.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
amazing.
Hi, Jeff. Okay, okay. The idea is that we want to create this scenario for a retrospective. So if you want to add some of the, let me say, attributes of a team, of an ideal team. So if you see, Ula, can you go to the, let me go to the mural.
Yeah, I could share the screen if you want me to.
Yeah, I'm going to share the link to the mural again.
Disabled participant screen sharing, so you have to do it, Corrado.
Yep. Done. Jeff and Teresa, I just put on the chat the link to the mural board, so you can enter there, you know, as a guest. And we are the main team. That is the team that is going to be recorded. Okay, so we are in the main room. So you can select in the outline on the right the main room. Okay, and here we decide to follow a Lego team retrospective. So this is the retrospective that we are going to follow. But however, we have to define, as I mentioned before, the scenario that we are moving in. So if you have, for example, some idea that you want to add in as an attribute for our ideal team. Probably you heard that I had the fact that we have half of the team that for many reasons related to COVID actually are off. So this could be one point of the conversation.
So do we want to make it as complicated as possible?
I think we can add just another couple of...
Yeah, because I currently have a big problem. I mean, yeah, my team has a big problem of what's happening at the moment, and we are about to have a retrospective about this. But maybe some people can relate to this. So we have, because of the environment that we work in, there are silos within the team.
So you have developers, testers.
Yeah, we can call it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can imagine how agile that is. But that's the problem that we are facing at the moment.
Okay. We can add the siloed team. That is pretty generic. Anything you can add, Jeff and Teresa?
No, I think for the most part, a lot of the work that I've done over my career over the last 20 years results in international work. So there's time zones, there's very much siloed teams, and there's roadmaps, but a lot of people have their own, I guess, their own agendas and a way of getting things done. And so product managers would have groups of engineers they'd work with. And, you know, I was the manager for a design team in 6 different countries. And I was told by one product manager that I just didn't know the right engineering teams to get things done. And so to me, that kind of came across like, I don't know, kind of juvenile in a way. Like, really, we're not all in the same team. We're not working towards the same goals. Don't we have roadmaps for a reason? So very much the siloed concept of trying to get everybody to working towards the same outcomes is very much a pattern that I've seen in my career anyway.
So can we summarize this like, for example, team roadmap versus personal journey?
Yes, I think that would be fair. Very well put. Yes, absolutely. And it happens everywhere, right? And I think the bigger a company gets, the more I see that pattern anyway. In startups, it's a tight-knit group, but as things expand and as you get more money, you know, what's the incentive to stay on course without breaking off? Yep.
It's the uncontrolled growth of the team.
Yep.
Okay. Well, were you able to share the screen, Ursula?
Yeah, I can do it, no problem. I just started to put in the post-it notes. So I put one on the silo, and then we want one more. Okay, I've never used. Wow.
Really?
Okay, so you're saying roadmap versus personal goals. These are the problems that we have, right?
Okay. Can we add something positive?
Yeah.
Okay, Teresa, can you add something, some achievement maybe that we had during our sprint?
Sorry, I'm not very familiar with this, so.
Okay. Biliana, are you still there? Don't think so. Okay, maybe we can add that we made a release in this sprint. We released to customer, and actually we didn't have any rework for this release.
Sorry, I'm running, so therefore I can't. I'm just listening. Sorry.
Okay, Biliana.
The release done in last sprint successfully.
Yeah. Okay, this is our scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, now I think, I don't understand if we have to wait for Enrico or we can move.
I'm here.
Okay, perfect. Amazing.
Let me just start the timer so that we know how much time we have left for this. So I think I scheduled a break at 7:30, like at 35 past the hour. So the group has about about half an hour, 22 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start that. We are gonna end at the top of the hour. Is that okay, Corrado? Is that
Absolutely.
what was on the?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna end. Sorry, at what time?
At the top of the hour at 15 minutes from now, 52 minutes.
Okay.
Is that okay, Ula?
Yeah. Perfect. that's fine. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty, so let me see. There's a lot of very interesting stuff that the groups are doing. One is about dancing. There's a dancing themed retrospective. There's one about Tom and Jerry, and there's some other stuff. So roadmap versus personal goal. The team had COVID. Silo in the team. Yeah. So I guess the idea that I had for those like for the Lego was like the prompt with again, when we set the stage, is kind of like to connect to the last iteration, and so we can ask something like what kind of Lego brick was the last iteration, or one thing that I had in mind is like, was the last iteration like what, stepping on a Lego brick without shoes? Or was it like building a custom model, or you know what I mean? That's a kind of like analogy that might be fun. So yeah, that was what I had in my head. Any thoughts on that? Also, given the backgrounds that you brought in.
Well, actually, Enrico, this raises me a question. Given your experience, changing the theme of the retrospective every time, it's something positive or maybe something that we could avoid?
Yeah, so I think the main thing is that the theme, so I call it the flavor. I don't call it the theme, but it's similar. You change the flavor,
yeah.
But stepping on a brick without shoes, or like the example that I have with Seinfeld. They are really, I'm just going to take over the screen share so that you see what I mean, and also the people recording can. They're really like just an ESVP. It's just a different metaphor, but you're giving those 4 options.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like a prisoner? You stepped on a Lego brick. On the opposite side, at the good side, there is the explorer, which is going to be, I don't know, we created the best model ever. And then the shopper and vacation. So it follows that. And if you look at my, if you look at this Star Wars retrospective that I made, it's very much that. Are you a Stormtrooper? Are you a Mandalorian? Rebel Alliance? Jedi? Mm-hmm. It does change the flavor, but it mirrors the same kind of like purpose and framework. So we set the stage to find out how do you feel about the last iteration or about this retrospective. So as long as we follow that, I think it's okay. What I think, as long as we follow a structure, and then the gathering data, the prompts might have a different metaphor, but the outline, the purpose is to have things bubble up, something that was frustrating, something that was a surprise. And then I think that if people get familiar with those concepts, then it's just novel, the kind of like the bringing in the metaphor. And ultimately, I think it's up to the team. So some team might just want to stick to more kind of like default prompts. The downside of that is that it, especially with like the 3-column kind of like mad, sad, glad, that can kind of like backfire and people go into like automatic mode. So I think it depends. I would definitely not create something very complex. And this might seem complex, but really and I have a blog post that explains those are really very much basic prompts just with Star Wars images, which is what I was planning to do with Lego. Corrado, I don't know if that.
Perfect. You absolutely. I got the point.
I personally think that's a really good idea to give a bit of a change, because what I've seen in my team, we kind of, if you repeat the retro every month, every 2 weeks, whatever, at some point it may feel as it's every other meeting and people just take a pattern of how it looks, and we don't, we lose that innovation.
Yeah, that is actually a key of like the way I see retrospective is not a business as usual meeting.
Yeah.
Like when we run iteration planning is business as usual. I wouldn't, let's do a Star Wars iteration planning. I mean, you could, I guess, if like you really want to, but it's really like, there isn't like a lot of like divergent thinking that, in my opinion, you need an iteration planning. There's a clear purpose and outcome that you want to get, and you want to kind of get consistent in that. with retros, I guess the 5-step framework is the thing that I would follow. The problem, and then we can kind of like paint on top of that, which is what we're doing in this meetup together, painting like a fun flavor on it. But we're really following, okay, setting the stage, gathering data, generating insights, deciding what to do, and then closing out. And then we can do it as fast as we want. So it's there was a question about the timing, but I think it kind of like lands on that. And sometimes we don't need to bring a theme. Maybe we just leave it without theme. This is just because the meetup was structured this way.
Thank you, Enrico.
No problem. So I was thinking, like, it's funny because like yesterday I wanted to do this Lego thing by myself, and then I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna wait, and we're gonna do it with someone on the meetup. And I had this like idea, like for the Explorer Shopper Vacation Prisoner, okay, we stepped on bricks without shoes, or we followed the instructions, so the difference between following the instructions, just like we built something cool. So we followed the instructions, but there was a piece missing or something. But we had missing pieces. And we didn't, or maybe we didn't follow the instruction, or we built something cool. And I don't know, you guys come up with something. But this is the ESVP. So how was the last iteration? Like stepping on a brick without shoes, or like following the instruction but having a missing piece, or we built something cool, or this is the opposite extreme, which is where it was really good. And the same, it could be about this retro. How do you feel about this retro? And so it's really up to us how we want to. I tend to always connect with like if we're looking again at the last iteration, to connect to that when we set the stage. How was the last iteration, and how do you feel about this? So any thoughts about the missing piece or the setting the stage prompt? How was the last iteration?
For example, if we have some action items from the last iteration and we want to check if this is working or not.
So this would be more like, how was the last iteration from really bad on the left?
I was referring to the last retrospective. Sorry, I used the wrong word. Maybe we have some action items from the last retrospective.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we want to check if we did it well or not, or if we did it or not.
So, okay, maybe I didn't explain it very well. So this activity here is kind of like a check-in on how was the last iteration from, this is like from really bad to really good.
Okay.
And the metaphor with a Lego is just like, okay, really bad means we're stepping on a Lego brick without shoes. And in between we followed the instructions, but we had missing pieces. We built something cool. To the really good, I guess we all collaborated and built something cool. I don't know, something else. We can come up with it, but that's the idea of the 4 kind of like prompts, to understand from the group, how do you feel, or how really the prompt should be, how do you feel about the last iteration?
Okay.
So that's kind of like the idea for that. So the checking the action item, that is something that could be, in general, I tend not to do it in retro. I tend to do it after stand-ups, because I've noticed that some of those conversations can be lengthy. And so after stand-ups, we do a kind of like a check-in on the in-flight experiments to see how they're going. But yeah, you could have that here as well. It really depends on the team preferences. Maru,
okay.
No, this is not a private. Oh, I just saw a message from Maru in the chat. It's unfortunate. It felt like he was intruding and he left. I did not see that in the chat. Yeah, feel free if you see people writing stuff in the chat to reply as well. Okay, well, let's carry on. And so then, I guess the next one on gathering data. So it's like what happened in the last iteration. Here, usually what I tend to use is satisfying events, confusing events, and challenging events. And so what we can do is this, we leave it underneath as kind of like the backbone. And then above, we can come up with our metaphor about that. But that's kind of like the idea of like when we gather data, we kind of collect that that sort of information from the group. Any thoughts on what those prompts could be?
Can you zoom a little bit, Enrico, please?
Sorry. And feel free to follow on. The only reason I'm doing this is so that the people recording, like watching this recording, can see
exactly,
it.
exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, in the Star Wars one, I think those prompts were, where did you blow up the Death Star and how? What was turning off our hyperdrive? So what was frustrating? And where was the dark side bringing the worst out of us and why? And what felt like a trap, like a surprise? So those were the prompts in there. So yeah, the idea would be to, and those prompts kind of follow this like satisfying, confusing, challenging, surprising events. So what is a satisfying event with Lego? When you think of Lego, what is satisfying?
I think when you put the last pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So what felt like completing the build or completing a construction? And then what feels like confusing when you're playing with Legos?
Looking at the instruction where you have no idea what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay, given my experience with Lego, something that I found really frustrating is when you have to flip your model because you are building on the other side.
Yeah.
So you're building your model from one side, then you have to flip because you have to build the other side. This is something that normally I'm not good to
like
understand.
that. What felt like having to flip our model to understand what's next. This is a great analogy because it brings in looking at things from different perspective, which is one of the great prompts. What felt like Phil, and then challenging. So what is challenging when you build stuff with Legos?
I don't want to monopolize the session. Something that I found really frustrating, really challenging, and when I connect two plates by mistake and I have to divide them, that it's always complicated. You have to use some tools. I mean, I have my, let me say, Lego here. I can show you how it's difficult to open.
But you know,
what felt like a
in my last set, they gave me like a tool to split them actually.
Yeah, I have it, but actually it's not really working.
You have to use your teeth.
Sometimes, yeah. Or scissors, and normally you hit yourself with the scissors, so you have to go to the hospital because of two plates connected.
That one. Or if you put a piece somewhere and you think it's fitting pretty well, but then you realize it's not this one.
Yeah, or what felt like we had to disassemble to correct a mistake. What felt like a you know when you build something and then you're like, oh shit, that's a wrong piece, and you have to kind of like take it apart.
Yeah, that's true. I can give you another example. When you have to play, when you have place a tile over a plate, and you place this in the wrong position. And again, disconnecting this is another frustrating activity if the tile is in the middle.
Cool. So the piece was in the wrong place.
We have some really hardcore Lego people here. I have never had to go to the hospital over Lego. That's insane. That's crazy. I'm just sorry.
It's very dangerous.
I know. Hey, if you take it seriously, no disrespect, that's fine. I've just never had to go to. I've never even had to think about cutting pieces before. So this is. I came here to learn about retrospectives. I'm learning about all the chaos that can be caused by Lego. This is wonderful. I understand the metaphor. I think this is brilliant. Keep going. I'm sorry.
No worries. And so next is like the generating insights. So, I mean, with generating insights, usually my prompt is, how can we make the next iteration like the best one yet? And I think what I did here was, this one. Do we want this Agile retrospective outcome to destroy a TIE fighter or defeat the Empire? This is in the Star Wars metaphor. And so I guess for our metaphor with Lego, what can we come up with? We have about 5 minutes left. So let me send out a message to everybody.
For example, in Lego, you know that you have different packages. Normally, you have big boxes with, I don't know, maybe 2,000, 3,000 pieces. And also you have small bags with maybe 35, 50 pieces.
Yeah.
So this can give you an idea of the different scales, bags versus big boxes.
Yeah. So do you wanna add that in, Corrado? Or do you wanna repeat that, because I was typing in the breakout and I.
Yeah.
You mean, Corrado? Do you want to go for a large box of Lego with 3,000 pieces, or do you want to build just a miniature of something?
I love that. That is super good. Yeah. What do you want the next experiment to be like? Like a large 3,000 pieces, or a small? That will be. Yeah. Or what were you guys thinking? I feel like maybe it was something else.
No, I like that analogy. I think that makes sense, because Lego sets come in very small boxes, right, where you can get something a 10-year-old to put together, or you can get them as complex as something that can be, the size of, I'm 6 foot 2 inches tall. I mean, you could get something as big as that as well. So that range is something from simple to ridiculously complex, and that even includes the amount of time you'd have to work on it as well, and realistically get something done, right? So
yeah,
and instead of what you want,
because on one side we can say do you want to build the against Star Wars that Millennium Falcon ship? I think it's the biggest set that they have.
And I think that the best way to phrase it is, will it be more useful if we build a large 3,000 pieces, or if we build a small?
Yeah.
Because then we put it on them, and it's kind of like that reflection. What do you think?
Yeah, and maybe even depending on useful, I agree, but there's a difference between useful and actually being used. So, depending on what we're building, who is going to use it? Is it for a child, for example, who's going to take the TIE fighter or whatever ship we're talking about and play with it all day long? Or is it meant for sort of an adult, where it's a beautiful, like almost work of art that you'd want to put in your office or somewhere where people can come and visit? So
should we say, sorry, I had something in mind. Should we replace it with the word value instead of useful?
Yeah, I think those are all. So usually the way I go with generating insights is the kind of like is where we generate ideas. So I think what we're talking about now is more like deciding what to do in terms of like, how do we frame the experiment? Is it a large piece? Is it a small piece? Who's gonna like build in on all that, which is great. The generating insights is more about what would make our next iteration the best one yet. So that is usually the prompt. And so thinking in terms of Lego, I think would it be more, we need to kind of like, because then what the group will do is think of experiments, think of actions based on that prompt. And I'm not sure I have something right now that I can think of. We only have 2 minutes left anyway. So I think what we should do is add some fun images. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just wanted to.
Oh, you see, there was a stepping on the, yeah. Stepping on the brake.
So I'm gonna. Oop. Oh, and we didn't have something really cool about the last iteration. So I guess a Lego party or something. I don't know.
Going to the Lego store in London.
Oh, so perfect. Lego party at the Lego store in London. Alrighty, so let me look at the time. So I just want to make sure that we tell them that there's like 5 minutes break, so that then we can do the share back. And I'm gonna leave it up to them if they want to go on a break or not. But I strongly break, share back at. Oh, there's actually I have 5 minutes padding as well. But yeah, 5 minutes break is really brief. So I'm just gonna send a broadcast. So feel free to continue, guys, on the board. I'm just gonna do this broadcast message so that they know. Thumbs up. 5 minutes break and share back. Cool. I just sent the messages and told them that.
Yeah,
because the share back.
Copy and paste an image in Mural.
Yeah, you should be.
Because I tried, but I'm trying.
Oh, you can also, like, on the left hand side, there is an images thing that you can search stuff and put things in that way too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing this way.
Thanks. Are we coming back or staying in the room?
So it's 5 minutes break. So feel free to. Yeah. Okay. So you can. Yeah, whichever.
You pasted the same image. With the
what was that?
I was telling Corrado that I think we pasted the same image of the tube.
Oh, I see.
Great mind.
One for the stock piece.
Yeah.
I found one for the instructions without understanding what to do. And usually, I mean, yeah, this is a kind of like a blueprint. And the other thing that I tend to do is to leave like in the stuff in the same order. But yeah, so maybe what I'm gonna loop. yeah, the space that we have is a little bit limited. I'm just gonna try and move. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just gonna move it here. Oh, the other thing, we decide what to do. We could have done the whole master builder thing. You know how, if you have seen the Lego movie, they have this concept of the master builder that doesn't just follow instruction, it just makes something cool coming up. But yeah, given the time that we spent, I think I'm very happy with what came up. Welcome to everybody who's coming back. We have a couple more minutes during our break, and then we're gonna start the sharing back. So yeah, feel free to stretch or just yeah, just be here or. Recording. And so, yeah, next up, we're going to do a little bit of a sharing. Thank you so much for moving back. We're going to do a sharing of what you came up with. And so I will invite you to just raise your hand, and then we'll give you the word, or just unmute yourself and start sharing what you came up with. I'm gonna you can share your screen, so you can do that and walk us through your fun retrospective design.
So someone from room 1?
Yeah, actually, yeah, we can start calling them out. Yeah, someone from breakout 1.
Is there someone?
Yeah.
Please.
Anyone wants to go from team? I already facilitate. Maybe you can speak up for us. Amanda cannot speak. You want to go?
Yeah. Please go. If you can share the screen.
Okay, sure. Okay, our team was Tom and Jerry. We used Tom and Jerry. Especially, we can use this retrospective for the ones that we feel some like chased. If we feel like some in rush, and we can feel it sometimes. So we can use this retrospective for that we feel like chased. So in the beginning, we can ask all of the team members, express your feelings about last sprint, and we can give 1 minute for each. This is for setting the stage. And for gathering data, we again use some images that can express some like, so they can express their feelings, their thoughts that they like, and they fight for what is holding the team back, and what do you think you could do work better. So they can express their feelings using stickies under these titles like that. So as a next step for generate insights, we said we can do affinity sort. So we can just cluster ideas which create some patterns. So we can define patterns using this, then give a title to the clusters. And for the second round, we thought that, let's say they have some ideas here. And we can tell them, okay, please just place your stickies depending on their impact. So they can order them like this. And let's say if I'm not agree with this one, we add additional step like review all stickies, and if you are not confident enough about its place, copy paste a red dot and put it to the sticky. So if when I review all of them, and if I think this is not in the right place, we can discuss about it. Then we can again decide the place if it should be go up or down. So after we decide them, we can discuss most impactful ones and take some actions. And for the closing, we again use Tom and Jerry to define what went well and any improvements for next time. So again, they can use stickies under these topics to define their, to just reflect their ideas. This is the retrospective.
I love it. You did, first of all, you did a fantastic job in summarizing it in 2 minutes, like less than so that's excellent. So we have 2 more minutes. If people want to give feedback in the chat or just like unmute, we have another minute. I kind of like time box 5 minutes for everybody. I really love it. I added the mouse trap maybe instead of the red dot as a way to kind of like stay back to the team, but it's really fun. So does anyone have any other feedback for group 1?
I like it. Great. This cartoon idea, quite good.
Actually, I'm impressed. Just 20 minutes to create this. Really impressed.
Very good.
I have feedback. Hi. I like how you move things from number 3 to number 4 for the impact, because I find it difficult to turn our insights into actions which will have the most impact. So thanks.
Any other question or feedback? Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Really good job. Thank you. And next up, we have breakout 2.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Olga.
Let me share my screen. I need to give my, do you see it or not?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
Oh, I have some issues. Can anybody share screen?
Yeah, I can share the screen and
give me a second. I need.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm sharing right now, so if you want, I can.
It's okay. So it will work. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So welcome to car retrospective. As for setting the stage, we decided to use pictures with different cars and ask a team to choose just one per person, which describes their feeling during last iteration, and say a few words why they made this decision. Then we will move to gathering data and use speed car activity. So we are a team and we want to achieve our goal using super cool car. So we have great engine. It's what's pushing us forward. So we will ask team to use stickers and put some ideas which help us to move on, which can help us to speed up. Also, we will ask to put stickers near parachute and determine what slows us down. Okay, and
Sorry.
also that's okay. And also we have third group, abyss. It's some sort of risks, for example, broken bridge or something like that. And we will ask team to put stickers if they see any risk on our way to achieve our goal. So then we will read team stickers and discuss every sticker, and if team has any ideas or actions, we will put to the board number 3. So it's our insights. As step number 4, we will run waiting session. We will ask team to wait per one idea from board number 3 using small car emoji. So we created example here. So one word from person. So person can wait for some the most important idea or action from board number 3. So after waiting session, we should have a winner, and it will be action which we will work in our next iteration. Yeah, and last step is finishing up. So we just plan to ask the team how this retrospective was it valuable or not. If it was valuable and team was able to discuss all important questions, then they should put a car sticker near the high speed. If it was boring, they was not able to discuss important questions, we will ask to put a sticker somewhere with slow speed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have 1 minute more or less for feedback. If anyone wants to put that in the chat or here.
I especially like the introduction with the different pictures where one can express the different opinion on the last sprint. If it was a kind of carriage or some funny thing, that's very good. And also the final with the variation between the things. But the first thing I liked very, very much. And with the speed, of course, it's also some alternative thinking instead of the usual 1 to 10 and just think if we're speeding or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really like it. I guess one other thing that in this analogy that comes to mind is the whole self-driving car autopilot. Maybe you could play around with that in the gathering data. Were we on autopilot? Or self-driving? Did we hit a 3? Did we get to our destination? Seeing the Tesla, that came to mind. But awesome job. Thank you so much. Next up, we have breakout 3. Dancing with the Stars retrospective.
Okay, well, I can pick up the thing. I hope I can properly share my screen now. Does anybody see my screen?
I just stopped sharing, so maybe give it another go.
Okay, then. Yes, share. Let's share. Okay, so here it is. So at first for setting this stage, we said, okay, let's have a look at the previous performance, like last round. If we went well, if our result was better, and so on. That the people can give us some result on that. How was the performance, or maybe how the dance was, just some description if it was a tricky dance or some slippery surface. As gathering data, then we would like to see, okay, how was the feedback on this? How did we perform ourselves here? How was the reaction of the competitors and so on, just as an analog thing, or if there, for example, that we lost some footing, or that we didn't give the nice impression and so on. Really to ask the people, the participants, to get this as the generate insights to see, okay, as a result from our performance, what can we do differently? Is it with the dancing things again, something with the dress we should do, or something with a song, and then the music, etc., or at the time we have prepared and rehearsed and everything, if this is causes the problem, and just to compare the things. As step number 4, what we want to do about what do we want to decide, it's like, okay, which dance we would like to do next time, and do we have to have a different costume? If we want to have a signature move or something like this, what would that be? And to come to the end, to look after our results. Like, do we now have a plan for the next dance as a result, or do we know what to change and what we know what to expect? And in the end, yes, we should have a good feeling for the next time, as with an improved result. So that's in brief what we thought in our retrospective. So,
thank you, Holger. We have about 2 minutes. Any feedback, any questions from the audience?
I really like the analogy for dancing and related things to dance.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the consistency across the different steps. Actually, the team is really working very well.
I didn't realize how many questions you could come up with from one theme like dancing. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holger. Next up, it's breakout 4. Do we have a volunteer to share in breakout 4?
I think we're a little shy. I have difficulty sharing my screen because I'm on the iPad on Zoom, but my screen is on another laptop. So if you want, and someone wouldn't mind sharing the screen.
I can share mine. That's fine.
Great. Thanks, Joanna.
Give me a shout when you can see it. I'll zoom in.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. Thank you.
Nice.
So the theme for this team was climbing. Climbing was a common theme across all members of this team, between 10 and 12 of them. And in the setting the stage, we had a few questions that we could use as just to get a feel from everyone, just to give everyone an opportunity to speak about their experience. So how was their group when they were climbing? Was there a change in altitude that probably affected their experience during climbing, which is something everyone has done, so everyone can express how they felt. So an opportunity to set the stage. And then moving along to the next piece was providing a graph of the different positions on the mountain, so the bottom of the valley and the top of the world, and just looking at the journey from climbing, from starting the sprint to ending the sprint, and looking at the different highs and lows that people will experience whilst climbing, and people giving them the opportunity to sort of position themselves in the peaks and the troughs of that sprint experience. And in terms of trying to gather the data and then asking them the questions in sort of gathering insights, what were their highs and lows, and getting people to mention what those were, what key moments happened, what were they feeling, and just getting people to express themselves and discuss what those were. And then in terms of trying to, what's the other, trying to figure out what the next stage is called. So deciding what to do, different ways to climb, just looking at the options that might be available to the team. Can we climb faster and more safely? What tools do we need to use going forward? And just looking at which actions we can take into the next stage or the next sprint. And then for the closeout, also finding out what feedback they can give with regards to the sprint, the retro that we just had, and about the actual judge. Was this retrospective useful? And if it was, how can we keep doing what we're doing, or how can we improve this? And then making sure that we have taken those actions that can be implemented by the internal team. So not enough pictures. We struggled getting some images in there in the time, but yeah, that's it. If anybody from the team feel like I've missed anything out, please feel free to mention that.
That pretty much summed it up.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
had people drawing a graph in different colours of their highs and lows because that gives people a chance to have a little thinking time. That's all.
Thank you. So that's it from us. Any questions?
No, I just like the number 2, the gathering data on the level of position which each person were during the trip and how you get to the next step. That was for me very nice to see.
And I think it's great that you talked amongst yourselves to find that common theme that everyone could had a shared experience with, so that everyone could contribute to something that they were aligning with. We were talking earlier about building Legos and Star Wars. I'm not a big Lego fan or a Star Wars fan, so in my sarcastic overtone, I was going, well, I didn't realize Legos were so hard, but I learned something in the process. But I kind of felt left out of the conversation. I wasn't able to contribute because I don't have a background in that.
Yes.
So I think it's great that you worked with your team to find that common theme and said, yeah, we all have experience doing climbing and worked from that analogy. And I think that's something that gets missed once in a while, and especially in larger teams. So I think it's great that you took the time to do that. So kudos.
Thanks for that.
Awesome. It's really good. So we have about 3 minutes left before the top of the hour, and I want to really try and end on time. So I'll leave our Lego one after for people that wants to stay, and instead focus on some feedback on the session. And I want to ask you back on the board, and I'd like to ask you to answer 1 or 2 questions of your choice in this area here. And what are the most important concepts and insights from this session? And how do you plan to use what you've learned? Or in what ways does this information change perceptions you've held about some of those concepts, about retrospective? And how do you might use this information? And I'm gonna invite you. I'm gonna put this link in the Zoom chat as well, so that you can fill this in. And we have a couple of minutes to fill this in. Feedback is pretty important, and also like writing it down so that it can be clear, like what was useful in this session. And also like the final one, what is one question you still have on designing fine agile retrospective, and how will you find the answer to this question? I will stick around for a few minutes after the top of the hour if people have questions or want to look at the Lego one that we partially created. I think you guys did a much better job. I think we didn't get to decide what to do and close out analogies. So kudos really on you. I'm really super impressed about what I saw here. So yeah, just a couple of moments for feedback.
Yeah. Enrico, just a comment. There are a lot of sticky that actually are locked to me.
So if you double click the sticky, you will be able to start editing.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, you're right. Thanks for clarifying that. I forgot to mention it. So if you double click any of those post-its, technically it does create another post-it on top, but for the sake of this exercise, it doesn't matter. But thanks for clarifying, Corrado. So yeah, another minute or 2 for feedback, and I'll be staying for.
Just have a suggestion for upcoming sessions. You can lock the areas because we just moved the areas while we try to add something, and I couldn't lock it. Probably there is no right for me. Before the session, maybe you can lock the areas.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. I think without knowing who was coming up, I kind of like put them in place and probably forgot to lock them. But yeah, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So yeah, we're at the top of the hour. I really try like to end on time. So if you have to drop out, thank you so much. If you want to continue those conversations, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter. There is also the Agile Alliance initiative. So if you go to principle12.agilealliance.org, feel free to join some of those questions that we had in our Mentimeter. I will report them in here as well. Some are similar, so you might be able to already see some insights on that. The new ones will be posted there. There is a monthly retro on retro, so feel free to join that as well. If you go to my full name.eventbrite.it, you'll find that. And the podcast. So this is retrospective facilitation, is where I've interviewed facilitators for the last couple of years. You can find it on wherever you get your podcasts from, and you can listen to that as well if you're into that. Thank you so much, and I'll be sticking around for a little bit longer if people are interested in our Lego retro, or just like asking or just going through some of the other things. Thank you again, Corrado. I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Enrico. Thank you very much for sharing your approach. I really love it. Eventually, Enrico, if you can draw me these links, all the links that you have added, you can draw me to myself, and I will add it to the events in Meetup, so we can store there, and everyone that joined it actually can find there. Okay?
Sure, certainly, I will.
Amazing. I think this was really, really insightful for me. It opens a real door. Thank you very much, Enrico. The idea of, actually, it looks not so complicated to create a team retrospective following this approach. So for sure, I will test more sooner than later, but I will test it. So thank you very much for that. Please go ahead.
I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I just had a lot of fun, like going into the groups. Time is always like a constraint, but yeah, seeing what these groups came up with, it's really fun. So excellent, and I'm looking forward to connect with you after this event and in the coming future.
Okay. I have to go actually because it's 8 p.m. so I have to go. But if you want to stay, the session is there. I don't know when the session will be over, the recording will be over, so everything will be managed. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I'll stay like 5-10 minutes or whatever people stick around. And then
thank you. I can keep the session open. No problem. Okay, thank you very much again, Enrico. Thank you very much, all of you, that you survived till the end. So you are the best one, obviously. You are the best one. I hope to see you in our next event. That should be in 2 weeks, not next week. So thank you again for sharing this. Thank you for participating, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll stick around a few minutes, so if people have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself, or any feedback about this session as well, feel free to put that in the chat. We had a formal feedback, but like a return time invested, but given the number now, we can just put it here in the chat.
I really like the session. Thank you for your effort. So it was so cool, and I'm an Agile coach, so I can use this stuff for Scrum Masters because I try to teach them some ways, but I think it's better if they create their own ways, and it just encourage engagement between team members. Because let's say if I tell them, okay, let's do a Tom and Jerry retrospective, but maybe they are not familiar with Tom and Jerry, so maybe they want to use Pikachu, maybe just Pokemon. So I don't know, but team members and Scrum Masters know it better. So I believe that they can create their best. I really like that.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that feedback. And this experiment just demonstrated that it doesn't have to take hours and hours. It can be really like simple, but not simplistic. It was simple, but it was like achieving. I think the examples here are perfect fit. So yeah, it's great to hear that, and I'm looking forward to hear what retrospectives your group come up with. So feel free to share that and let me know.
Thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. I've learned a lot tonight. So thanks very much.
No problem. It was fun to be here. I'm glad you got something good out of it.
Yes, a lot. I never know how to ask for feedback, so that was really helpful. Thanks.
Cool. Awesome.
Great. Have a nice evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was a really great session, to learn new things and see how we can get better at it.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that, Kush. And yeah, looking forward to hear how your retro experiments go.
Sure, definitely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.